Finally, we've got the new Yoga Slim 7i Pro X in the studio. A beautiful 14-inch productivity laptop packed full of features that punches well above its price tag. We're going to be taking a look at the performance, the internals, the features and the mobility of this laptop to find out if this tiny little beast could be your next laptop. Hi, this is David at Mash IT. Now, we've had a number of Lenovo's compact laptops in the studio for the last few weeks, and I have to be honest, this one has really stood out. Now, first things first, I think Lenovo have got to do something about their naming scheme. Now, there is a ton of Yoga laptops on the Lenovo website, and the names are all so similar, it's very difficult to understand which one is which. The name for this one is the Lenovo Yoga Slim 7i Pro X. It's quite a mouthful. Now, the fact that it's a 7i means that it's sort of a mid-range, and the I means that it's an Intel. They do also make a Ryzen version. Now, we bought this unit customized from the Lenovo web store, and the specs that we chose when we were customizing it is the Intel i5 12500H. It's also available with the 12700H, but we've reviewed so many of those laptops that we fancy to try the 12500 as we haven't had one in yet. Now, unusually for a 14-inch compact laptop, this model is also available with an Nvidia 3050, which we chose in this model when we configured it. But if you buy the base model, you can either have it with the Intel graphics or a 1650 if you're not so bothered about the graphics. But I think it's well worth paying the extra if you're spending this much on the machine anyway to get that 3050 in here, especially if you're using this for productivity or creativity, or even if you want to game a little bit on the side. Now, it also comes with 16 gigabytes of high-speed 6000 MHz DDR5 RAM. Now, that is soldered on, which is a shame, but at least they have put high-speed DDR RAM in here, and that's quite unusual and quite a nice little benefit with this soldered on RAM. We also get a 1TB Gen 4 M.2 SSD and a 14-inch 16x10 3K display. And all of that costs about £1,100 in the UK with just the standard voucher they had on their website. Now, I think that's pretty good value for this package, considering how much more an XPS 15 would have with similar specs. And the reason why this machine is so special is because the amount of features they've packed into this incredibly small 14-inch chassis, which most other companies can't even do on a 15-inch. So first, let's take a quick look around this compact aluminium chassis. So we're getting a solid aluminium chassis. It's available in two colours, and this is the dark teal, as I really like this colour. It is also available in a grey, but I think this looks absolutely stunning, and this is one of the reasons I wanted to get this in. I think it looks beautiful, and it is incredibly tanky feeling. Considering how light it is at 1.46 kilograms, there's no creak, there's no give. It just feels like a solid block of aluminium. Not quite the same build quality as a MacBook when you do the fit and finish, but pretty close. We get a solid hinge with a little bit of a notch at the front to make it easy to open with one hand. And another thing I love about these Lenovos is the fact that you can flip the screen almost back 180 degrees, which is particularly useful if you're stood up looking down on your laptop or you're trying to share something on your screen. That's something I love about most Lenovos do this, and it's a really nice feature. And despite this laptop being so slim and light, we get a good selection of ports as well, which is very nice. Now, on the left side, we get an HDMI 2.1 with the Nvidia 3050 version. We also get two Thunderbolt 4 ports, which are capable, obviously, of charging the laptop and display out and all the other goodness of Thunderbolt 4. So a very versatile port. And then when we flip it around, we get a legacy USB-A port, which is still so handy for your mice, your keyboards, your old-fashioned sort of USB hard drives. So I still love the fact that we've got one of those, especially on a slim laptop. We get a headset jack. We get a webcam shutter. So rather than on the top of the screen, we got a button here which can disable your webcam for the security conscious. And lastly, we've got a power button that has a light in it so that you can see the status from the side of your laptop, whether it's in sleep mode or if it's on, it flashes or stays permanently on. So for such a small and light laptop, that's a great selection of ports in my opinion, and a good all-round use. The only port I would have liked to have seen that isn't on here is an SD card reader. Considering this is a laptop aimed at sort of content creators, a lot of those people doing photo work or video work, they're going to want SD cards. So it would have been nice if they could, even a micro SD card reader would have been good on this compact laptop. So moving to the inside of the laptop and looking at the palm rest. First thing you'll notice is a massive trackpad. Considering this is a compact 14-inch laptop, this is an incredible size laptop, and it reminds me of a MacBook sort of style laptop, and it puts many 15-inch laptop trackpads to shame. It also feels premium, it tracks well, and the gestures work flawlessly. So I've been really happy with the trackpad on this laptop. Moving up to the keyboard, we get a standard white backlit keyboard, the usual great Lenovo layout. It's a great typing experience. I love these sort of curved keycaps. They are great to type on. I would like a little bit more travel, but that's instead of most of modern laptop keyboards these days. but it's good sort of crisp typing feel. And as I mentioned, a great layout on this keyboard for someone that's going to be typing heavily. The only thing that's a bit of a shame is I don't like the half height row at the top for the sort of the multimedia keys or the function keys, but I can forgive that by giving us this large trackpad and bringing the keyboard up a bit. Now either side of the keyboard you can see the speaker grills, and the speakers sound like this. This is a speaker test of the Lenovo Yoga 7i Pro X. Speakers at 80% volume. For a 14-inch laptop, that's pretty good audio quality. Obviously, as most laptops, it could do with a bit more bass, but it's clear and decent audio. So moving up to the screen is another highlight feature of this laptop, and that is the 14.5-inch 3K display. It's got 400 nits of brightness. It's also got 120 Hz refresh rate. So 3K, 16 by 10 aspect ratio means we've got a 3072 by 1920 display resolution. So the 16 by 10 means it's great for productivity and work. You get that extra real estate on the vertical, which is really handy when you're working in documents and spreadsheets. The fact you've got that higher resolution means everything looks incredibly crisp, but it's not too high for this 14-inch laptop that's going to kill your battery life. And we've got 120 Hz. Now, it's great that it feels a lot smoother than a standard 60 Hz in most Office laptops, but I have to be honest, when I've tested this in the UFO test or some Twitch shooters, it's not the fastest 120 Hz panel, and there's a little bit of ghosting, but I'd still take this 120 Hz panel over a 60 Hz any day of the week. Now, because I've got the Nvidia version, it also comes with Advanced Optimus, which I really love, and when you turn it to the dedicated mode, you can even enable G-Sync on this integrated panel. So Lenovo have done a fantastic job. Now by default you get the matte display, which is what I've chosen here, and it's my preferred screen type because I'm using my screens all over the place and I can't control my brightness. You can also get this in glossy, or you can choose glossy and touch, so whichever you prefer when you configure your laptop. Moving above the screen, we've got the 1080p webcam, which looks and sounds like this. And this is a test of the camera and the microphones on the Yoga Slim 7i Pro X. And they've also included Windows Hello facial recognition, which has got to be my favourite way of logging in. It logs you in quickly and accurately as soon as you open your lid. I love this. I much prefer it to a fingerprint sensor. So cracking this laptop open to get inside to the internals of this machine was very easy. The base plate is held on with just 5 screws, and once you've taken the 5 screws out, you grab the rear of the laptop, just the rear vents, you snap off the metal base plate which is held on with clips. Now once you're inside the laptop, you're greeted with a large 70 watt-hour battery. We've also got an 80mm Gen 4 M.2 slot, so you can upgrade the SSD yourself, but obviously there is only one drive. Now the SSD that they do provide is a fast drive anyway, but you may want to upgrade it for more capacity. The Wi-Fi card is also socketed, so in the future you could upgrade that, but unfortunately the RAM is soldered on. Now it is very high speed DDR5 RAM, so it is very good, but my model is limited to 16GB. That may be an issue for some people. Now, depending on the region you are, you may be able to configure this with 32GB, but in the UK at the time I ordered this machine, it was limited to 16. Now, the cooling solution on this laptop is a very traditional dual heat pipe and twin fan setup. And considering the mid-range components that we've got in this machine, I think it should do a pretty good job of actually cooling them. So let's put it back together and take a look. So before we actually start looking at the benchmarks and discussing the performance, I want to mention that this laptop, we've chosen the 12500H. I mentioned this at the beginning of the review. Now you can configure the more powerful 12700H, but we haven't tested this 12500H CPU yet, so we wanted to get one in. And I think it's probably the ideal choice for this slim and light laptop chassis. And that shows in the actual benchmarks. When we look at this Cinebench, you can see the incredible scores we're getting on this multi-core score, which actually beats out most of last year's i7 11800H CPUs, and also beats out the Ryzen 6800H range from this year. Also, being a 12th generation, the single core is very good. That's helped not only by these 12th generation processors, but also by this 6000 MHz DDR5 RAM that is soldered onto the machine. Moving on to the GPU, and we have chosen the model with the 3050 from Nvidia. This is a great mid-range GPU. Not only can you play games with this GPU, but it's perfect for your content creation or video editing needs. And for this size chassis, I think this is a great pairing. Now the 3050 in this laptop is a 55 watt model. So not the most powerful 3050, which should be more than enough for this chassis. And that shows when we look at either the benchmark for the OpenCL score, but also the gaming performance. This GPU is capable of playing some AAA games at medium settings, 1080p, and esports titles, some of them even at its native 3K resolution, like CSGO, which played absolutely amazingly at 3K. This really impressed me. And the temperatures are also impressive. The internal temperatures, when playing a long session of Apex, I was getting CPU temps of between 80 and 90 degrees C, and a GPU was sitting solidly at about 75, which is impressive considering this is quite a powerful CPU and GPU combination for a 14-inch laptop. External temperatures were also great. The chassis never got particularly hot, and the keyboard, especially with the WASD keys, was very cool, making it comfortable to leave your hand on the keyboard whilst gaming. And also the fan noise was pretty impressive. Now with these laptops, you do get 3 different profiles. You're going to get quiet mode, balance mode, and performance mode. Now in quiet mode, the performance is very limited, but the fan noise was only 39 decibels. When we move up to balance mode, which is probably one of the more useful actual profiles for everyday use, you're looking at 45 decibels for gaming load. And when you put it into performance mode, you're getting the higher performance wattage on the GPU, that's hitting 47 decibels, so still not as loud as most gaming laptops. So the performance is excellent, it's a great form factor, we've got lots of power, lots of ports, it's light, it's 14-inch, there's got to be a fly in the ointment, and as usual with these Intel 12th generations, it's going to be battery life. Now we've got a 70 watt hour battery in here, that's not bad for the size of this laptop, and it does okay. I mean, compared to the 12th generation gaming laptops reviewed with really poor battery, this one, in our usual YouTube video streaming test, at 200 nits brightness, over Wi-Fi, with the speakers at 80%, we managed to get 6 hours and 43 minutes. Now that's not bad, but it's certainly nowhere near as good as the Ryzen processors we've had from the last year or so, which can often give you over 10 hours of battery life. And the second you start pushing this machine, maybe a little bit of light gaming or some content creation, where you're firing up that Nvidia GPU and the battery will plummet. But with that said, performance on battery is absolutely stellar. These 12th generation CPUs with all the cores, with the P cores and the E cores, cut through anything on battery as well as they do on mains. And in fact the scores are almost the same for the CPU only tests. Obviously the 3050 does have to throttle back on battery, otherwise you will absolutely wipe it out in no time, but this does a good job and much better than gaming laptops do. But the good news is, even though the battery isn't as good as a MacBook or a Ryzen laptop, with this 14-inch compact laptop we do get a USB-C charger that does power this entire machine with this 3050 Nvidia graphics card. And here we get a 100 watt Lenovo USB-C charger. It's nice and compact, easy to throw in your bag, and being USB-C, you can use it for charging your phone, your iPad, other bits and pieces, and also you can use other USB-C chargers, docks and monitors to power this laptop. And that is one of the great features of a USB-C powered laptop over obviously a gaming laptop where you need to have a dedicated power brick to actually run the machine. This one, you can pretty much run it on anything. So that takes me through to the conclusion, and I have to say Lenovo this year have really been hitting out of the park with a lot of these Yogas and a lot of their Legion laptops. And of all the Yogas I've tested so far, this has been by far my favourite. It is a tiny, compact, solid 14-inch machine that feels light in your hand, yet still has a decent 12th generation CPU, either the 12500H or the 12700H, full power CPUs, as well as having the option of that Nvidia 3050 graphics card. Now yes, the 3050 isn't the most powerful Nvidia graphics card out there, but it can still cut it for games at 1080p, and it can still massively boost your content creation, especially if you're video editing or something you can use those CUDA cores. And all that in a nice light compact package you can throw in your bag, which makes it, in my opinion, for sort of content creation that likes a little bit of gaming, an absolute winner. I love a small laptop that I can sort of throw in a bag, take everywhere, write documents, do a little bit of video editing, and then do a bit of gaming in my downtime. And I do have a lot of 7-inch gaming laptops, and they're great, but they're cumbersome. This isn't. And it also comes in at a price that won't break the bank. This specification I had here was £1,100 with a code. Never buy a Lenovo laptop full price. But I think for what you're getting with this package, some ports, the performance, the decent screen that's even 120Hz on like a business class laptop, this is an amazing package. So I think it's obvious to say I really like this laptop. Really want to keep this for myself, but I am going to be testing, I think, the Ryzen version soon to see whether that improved battery life over the Intel is worth it to me over the more powerful CPU of these Intel processors. As usual, I'd love to know your thoughts on these laptops. What do you think of this one? Is this worth a buy, or can you suggest any other models that you think I should take a look at? And as always, thank you for watching.